your heart in prayer. Words of faith, words and trust and quietness and faith and sometimes prayer. Sometimes I'm not necessarily praying, but I'm thinking. I'm thinking with the Word. The Word is from God. This is God's Word. Just imagine God's Word in you. Just imagine that, what that is. God's Word in your spirit, in your heart, in faith. And it working in you. And you asking questions, let it work in you. You know how words can be on the surface. My mother tells me something, it happens a lot with my wife. My wife is talking to me, but I'm not listening. My wife is talking to me, but then like a few minutes later, I asked her a question, and she said, "Were you listening to me? Were you listening to me?" I'm dramatizing. And I would say, no, I wasn't. I wasn't listening. I wasn't really listening. In the same way, when we have God in our life, I think the same thing happens. Are you listening? Are you serious about it? Is it in your heart? You are born again. You have a new nature. You have the Spirit of God. Apply it. Believe it. Be attentive to it. Pay attention to it. Embrace it. That's how our life changes. Okay? All right, so, right there is a drop the mic moment. That is amazing. Now, look at Psalm 1, verse 1. Blessed is the man. Here's a great way to start the whole book of Psalms. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, and there's plenty of that. Counsel of the ungodly, and then stands in the way of sinners. I am hanging out with sinners all the time, talking like them, living like them, nervous like them, afraid like them. I'm living in the midst of them. I'm no different from them, and I sit in the seat of mockers, the elite people that are mocking us about the Budweiser light kind of scandalous thing happening with a beer company that just had the transgender guy put on the label or whatever it is. I just following it on the news, and they've lost $5 billion in their sales, like over a few days. That company just made a huge mistake by going woke. You go woke, and you might pay for it. And then there's some conservative beer maker, he's calling it ultra-right, and it's totally the opposite, and his company is taking off. So here we have the elite that are mocking us, the elite that are in our society that are shoving it down our throats, ungodliness and perversity, and if you sit with them, then you'll not be blessed. Do you want to be blessed? Psalm 1, verse 1. Now don't do this. Verse 2. But his delight, there's the key word, his delight is in the law of the Lord. What does he delight in it? Now you might say, I don't delight in my Bible. I want you to change that. I want you to delight in the Bible. I want you to discover it. I want you to talk to God about it. I want you to take your time. There's no mechanical method here. This is a thing that takes time, over a period of time, in your heart, in prayer, as talking to God, because you have seen God or you believe in God. You realize that God is real, and he doesn't fool around. God's in him is light and no darkness. But within you and me, we have light, but in us is darkness, and the Lord goes, we can't go together unless you deal with that. If you are worried and nervous and self-absorbed, and you are anxious and you are afraid, this is rooted in your darkness. This is not God. It's rooted in our psyche. It's in our sin nature. Now that doesn't mean that a Spirit-filled believer couldn't be nervous or worried or something, but he knows how to deal with it. He is processing truth. That's what the book of Psalms is about. It's about prayers and meditations that have an effect in my life, that change my life. That's what Pastor Stevens was preaching about in Psalm 119. Ezra was able to process life by the meditation and the embracing of the truth in his prayer life and in his faith. All right, so what does it mean? Teen Challenge, and we'll wrap it up here in a minute. But Teen Challenge is a recovery ministry. David Wilkerson, though our theology doesn't match exactly, I think they believe you can lose your salvation. We don't believe that, and there's some other things. But there is something I like about their method. They want the guys that want to get off of drugs and alcohol to be saturated in the Word. I like the idea that we get a lot of the Word. They study it 5 hours a day or something. Their success rate is like 88%. That people get delivered from their addiction. Now, do they fall back? I don't understand those numbers and I don't know about it. But I would say, I know that the secular world, when